here. Glad to have you with us today. It feels very sober. And it just occurred to me before we started recording that today is also September 11th. And obviously, everyone knows that yesterday, September 10th, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. It's kind of difficult to say that, like very hard to find the words to actually say that. And all of us here and the guys behind the camera and the rest of our team all talking this morning, like everyone agrees, and everything I've seen online is in agreement as well, that this event is of monumental proportions, and it's something that is shaking America, and it's shaking Judeo-Christian values, and I think honestly it's shaking the world as well. So this is going to be a tough podcast to record, I think, but we need to take a long, hard look at where we're at and who we are and where America's at today. Just to remember Charlie Kirk, who's someone that we all followed. I was recently listening to him quite a bit, just so impressed. A guy that's younger than me. He's 31 years old, wife and 2 young children, led an organization. I think he had like over 1,000 employees, Turning Point USA. He started when he was 18 years old. Obviously, millions and millions of people a part of the movement. He was one of the top podcasters in America. Obviously became famous for his talks on college campuses, and this was where he was shot and killed yesterday. He was basically the voice for young people in America and many around the world as well. I know Turning Point USA had chapters in other countries as well. He was like the leader for the next generation. And honestly, our team was talking about this morning, like what differentiated him from other conservative leaders. He's one of the only ones I could think of that is talking the talk and walking the walk, because not only is he preaching conservative values, but he's also a dedicated Christian Zionist. He's someone that whenever he would get asked what his advice is for young people in today's time, his response was always, get married at a young age, have lots of children, read the Bible, and keep Shabbat. Like, he literally preached that Christians should honor the Sabbath. And he and his wife honored the Sabbath like almost in a Jewish way, turning their phones off for 24 hours every, Friday night to Saturday night. So like really a guy that didn't just talk the talk, but I mean, he was leading the way, paving the path. His what he always preached was, don't blame others, especially the Jews. And I'll get into that later, I think. He said, do something yourself. Like, you have the power to change you. You have the power to change your generation. Take control of your own life. Read the Bible, pray, get married, have a family. Like, that's how you combat all of these problems that so many young people feel like they have in America today and around the world. So also trying to think, and I want to hear y'all's initial thoughts, and then also your thoughts on like why Charlie Kirk. But Charlie Kirk was the only Christian at his level in America who unconditionally is still standing with Israel, like unconditionally, unflinchingly. So many of the other conservative broadcasters and public figures and influences in America have just shifted in the last year so much. And he, as much flack as he got, and especially recent last couple of years, he has stood defyingly in support of the Jewish people and the nation of Israel. And I know he did get a lot of flack for like continuing to platform like Tucker Carlson and people like that. But I realized today, it struck me why, because it's just his famous quote, when people stop talking, bad things happen. He deeply held the belief that there should be freedom of speech and conversation everywhere. And that included people who are anti-Israel or anti-Zionist. Like, it's not because he was anti-Israel himself, but it's because he truly believed in letting people talk and listening. And that's why he continued to platform and speak with people of all backgrounds, all faiths, all political views, left-leaning, right-leaning.
Could we hear that in his own words? Do you mind?
Yeah.
I'd like to play it, because hearing it from his heart, it pierced mine.
When people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this? What is emotional violence, by the way? I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me. Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry.
Yeah, I always felt that intuitively, that his desire to have people like Tucker Carlson, who I think, especially on Israel, he disagreed fundamentally with. When he did that, I didn't feel like, oh, he's platforming Tucker Carlson. I feel like he has faith in truth and in the power of ideas and in the power of dialogue. As something I never liked when Jews say they make Holocaust denial illegal. Bad news. No, it shouldn't be illegal. Let it be debated. Let it be discussed. There is a truth in the world. And he was a real believer in that. And I'll tell you, on a personal level, I always liked him. But I didn't realize until last night that I loved him. I didn't realize it. When I came back from a kibbutz in the South that since October 7th, they had been sent away. They weren't able to be, and they just returned to that kibbutz. It was very emotional. They went over the traumas that they went through. I drove back. And upon arrival, I was about to go on a patrol, and I got these messages, Charlie Kirk has been shot, and I saw this video, and my heart shattered, and I was shaking for the entire night of the patrol. I was fighting off tears. I'm like, what? Do I love this man? What is it about him? And the whole world is shaking from this. It seems disproportionate. It seems like on a deeply subconscious level, we're all recognizing that this is a turning point in American history, possibly in world history. How, why, I don't think we necessarily know. But I was thinking about it, why was I crying? What was it causing the tears to come out? And I realized it's not that, oh, he supported Israel. It wasn't even about Israel. It's about who he was as a person, the beauty of his soul. I remember that there was one little clip I saw of him where I realized I don't just agree with him that he's a kindred spirit. He was talking about how when he meets presidents and diplomats, he used to be so excited about that. But let me show you the clip.
And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that.
That's so cute.
It's honestly the most joyful thing. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences. I've been very, very blessed. Very lucky, you could say, but very blessed is the word I would use. And the greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
And so I think that's what devastated me, was the human side, that he so clearly saw what was true and important in life, and that's in his children, that he was so filled. I realize he's a kindred spirit. For me, nothing matters more to me than my children. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. They're the future. I'm constantly infusing them with love for God and love for the Torah and compassion and kindness and love for the land of Israel. And I know that he was doing that with his children. And what happens there is that he's so bonded to his children that his children are bonded to him. And his wife is bonded to him. And it's a bonded family. And now that family is shattered and devastated. And it's just thinking about his children, they're like, where's my daddy, my Abba? He kept the Sabbath. He kept the Sabbath. You know what happens when you keep the Sabbath? It exponentially empowers the bonding of the family. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what his wife said.
I would love to know your thoughts on Sabbath and how practically your family practices this and applies it.
I will let him talk, but as the wife, I will say, I have seen it transform. I love my husband, and he's amazing and an intentional father and husband, but him honoring the Sabbath, I have seen it transform him in a way that is so powerful that when he turns his phone off and it goes in that drawer, and I know that it's, he's all on for the family. There is no distractions, and he finally gets to reset his brain. He finally gets to breathe. And as a wife, there is nothing more precious than my husband's sanity when it comes to the echo chamber and everything that he's dealing with in his world. So I have seen it change him and impact our family in one of the most beautiful ways. But I want him to.
Well, thank you. And we're very serious Sabbath keepers. This would be an exception because we're here with all of you, but we'll do it on Sunday. We actually take the traditional Jewish Sabbath. If you don't want to do that, I'm not here to debate you on it. It's fine if you want to do it privately. I'll beat you, but that's a whole separate issue. But it's fine. It actually doesn't matter that much. What does matter is I think that to our own detriment and to our own failure, we as Christians have decided to cast away resting on one of the 7 days. God rested after creation. That comes before the Hebrews. It comes even before the creation of the modern world and civilization as we know it. And so we honor the Sabbath. We're very serious about it. We get to spend more time with our family. We do no news. We do no work. And it says very, very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day you shall rest.
Speaking as a Christian, there's something about that, because I think it's in Isaiah 56, the verse before the house of prayer for all nations. that, I came to Israel, you hear it incessantly. It's what you hear here. You're speaking about Jews speaking about this. For me, that verse before, it says that the nations are going to basically keep Shabbat. It's like the sons of the foreigner who join themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone who keeps from defiling the Sabbath. And I think there's something about that. I know when I came here, I was like, hey, I'm keeping Shabbat. Give me a hug. Why are you keeping Shabbat? Like, this is our deal, And God does say, this is a sign between me and you, the Jews, you, the Israel. And so, but here in this kind of this age to come, there's going to be this thing where we start doing maybe our version of Shabbat. Okay, the 39 Hanukkah, I'm still kind of dealing with that. How does that look, or how does that work?
I mean, what he just described there,
right,
that
exactly.
is blessed in the eyes of the Lord.
Right.
Not all the details and the nuances. That's
right.
almost like that's the work of the high priests.
Right.
That's the work of the nation of Israel, all of that. But the essence of it, I believe that the world should keep.
Right.
And a lot of people are saying, what should we do to keep his memory alive? Go to campuses and dialogue.
Right.
Yes, that's true, but perhaps have a Shabbat for Charlie.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I love that.
So,
but the big thing that I wanted to point here is that I think this could be the secret of why he was so attached to Israel. Because why was I so attached to Israel? I started, keeping Shabbat. I started blessing my children. I didn't grow up in a family that where I was blessed, or these affirmative words were spoken over me. But I started doing it because it was what you do. What I heard, this is what you do. You bless your children. You observe this. It's part of it's part of observing the Shabbat. But it attached, for me, it was the attachment to Israel. It was that significant, it attached me to the people of Israel. It gave me a new profound respect and love for the people of Israel. Whereas not doing that, growing up the different ways, there was no attachment to the land and the people of Israel. And I think that we're going to see more people that are going to be like Charlie and like myself, who it changed the trajectory of everything that I did after that.
I want to hand it over, but I just sort of want to culminate by saying exactly what you said, to change the trajectory. There's a Jewish belief that in some ways, when the righteous die, when they leave the world, their soul is released. They're able to accomplish in some ways exponentially more after their death than they did in their life. And I'm already feeling that coming from him, because I think the reason I cried was not because of anything he has ever said. It's because who he is speaks so much louder than what he said. And he was a man that exuded kindness and compassion and faith and courage and a type of a holistic goodness that the world really needs right now.
Yeah, it's like it's only been hours, and already I've seen like clips surfacing on social media, like unearthing him as a younger man. But it's all about like the side people didn't even know about, how kind he was, how humble he was. Typically usually like awful clips come out, like, you didn't know this side of this person. It seems to me, and I mean, we'll see, but it seems to me like the opposite's going to happen here. Jeremy, I want to hear your reaction of what was your reaction to this happening? And also, why do you think this feels so monumental?
Yeah, it feels monumental. I mean, the ripple effects have reached all the way to Judea and Samaria, across the world. And I didn't know how much I liked him. I mean, I always liked him. I was always having positive feelings toward him. But then when I heard this, it like shook me to my core. And I feel like he represented everything that America should be, everything that America could be, and it was all based around faith. And everyone's trying to now commemorate and remember him, but I actually found a video where he said what he would want to be remembered as. Check this out.
Everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith.
So he wants to be remembered for courage for his faith. There is something that is so biblical about that, something that is so Jewish about that in its essence, courageous faith. And now to look at his life, it was the most courageous. It was ready to put everything on the line. I mean, I remember when we were planning for the Israel Summit, venue after venue was canceled because it was a threat to speak about Israel publicly. Now, what's going to happen to conservative values in America? What's going to happen to anything connected to the Bible in America? There will be no more public events. There'll be no more outside events, no more inside events. I mean, what is the response? And to me, civilization was birthed out of the Bible. that was Israel's greatest gift to the world. And America is our little brother, even though a lot of times they're like our big brother. They're the ones that got our back. In some ways, they're really our little brother, that Israel really gave birth to American civilization because it grew out of scripture. It grew out of the values of the Bible. And now those values are being attacked at its core. And Charlie wasn't just a podcaster. He wasn't just a broadcaster. He wasn't just a teacher. He really was the leader of a movement inside America. And that's why he was targeted, because he was really shifting things.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, oh, and by the way, talking about events in America, like we were literally 3 weeks ago talking about the Israel Summit. And obviously our audience is wondering, like, why have we not come out with an announcement about the Israel Summit? We were still trying to figure it out 3 weeks ago. And one of the ideas was a public rally, basically in Texas or somewhere else. And after what happened yesterday, I'm thinking there's no way to have a public rally in support of Israel. The question is, could we even have a private event? And that's like, we can get into more of that later, but it just feels like this is a new level for America. But I was trying to think, like, why was Charlie Kirk targeted? Because there's a lot of outspoken influencers and leaders on the conservative side, on the liberal side, right? And I was thinking about how you have a lot of right-wing conservatives who've kind of gone off in a weird direction, right? You have a lot of people touting anti-Zionism, Jew hatred, anti-Semitism, conspiracies, wild theories, wild stories. Like now the tendency is to blame everything on the CIA or the Mossad, which obviously, you know, you could guess, but people are already blaming Charlie Kirk's death on the Mossad. You know,
they were demonizing Charlie for being so pro-Israel, and now they're blaming Israel for killing him. It's just unbelievable.
It's like gotten popular on the conservative side to blame everything on the Jews.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this quote. This is a very mainstream. It said, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them.
It's just wild, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I was trying to think, why was he targeted? Because you got people just touting all kind of stuff, right? Blame this on the Jews, this prison experiment, this, you know, the USS Liberty story, this on the Mossad. We never went to the moon. Brigitte Macron's, or, you know, as a man, just wild stuff, right? And then you have Charlie Kirk, who his entire message is get married, have children, read the Bible, don't hate the Jews, stand with Israel, love freedom. And he's the guy that gets targeted.
Right. And I think part of the reason is because he saw a simple truth that the talking heads are starting to confuse the world about, which is that, you know, he said, Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. He said he saw very clearly what this is about, that this is about the war against the global jihad. The whole jihad is seeking the throat of Tucker Carlson. Yet they're trying to conflate and make it about the Shia and the Sunnis and the this and the that and complicate things, where he saw the basic truth of what this whole global war is about. Listen to it in his own words.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep. Right. And when he says Christendom, I'm not putting words in his mouth. He is saying Christendom from the Bible. The Bible of God that the nation of Israel brought to the land of Israel. And you can see it reflected in his love for Israel, that when he went to campuses and defended Israel, he wasn't only just a talking head that said, well, it says in Genesis 12:3, he who blesses Israel will be blessed. He did believe that that was the foundation of his faith, but he also saw it with simple clarity. The righteousness of Israel's actions and the righteousness of Israel's cause went into the belly of the lion at Cambridge University and debated these smug, entitled, intellectual, anti-Israel, anti-West with a purity and a simplicity. There's something that's simple about him in a brilliant way. You know what I'm talking about? Do you understand where I'm coming from? That's what I felt about him. And because what is the interest of the Tucker Carlsons of the world when they are able to make it where it's not about the global jihad against the rest of the world in the West? Yeah. Then he can say, well, Qatar is an ally. Qatar's one of America's best allies, even though Qatar is funding Hamas. He's able to be like, oh no, the Hamas, Iran, that's Israel's problem. That's not America's problem. He's able to create a distance between America and Israel and say, oh, it's just Israel's beef with the countries around
Carlson
them.
said this week, is Hamas actually a terrorist organization? Are they jihadis? I don't know. I'm not real sure. I think maybe they're just a political organization. Like he said
and is Iran Israel's problem? Is Iran
really
America's problem? Yeah, I can't remember the last time we had an Iranian attack on America. That's Israel's problem. And he wants to make it seem like, oh, it's just a regional conflict and not a deeper thematic, ideological, spiritual, religious conflict, which is what it obviously is that Charlie Kirk saw. And I think that that's the big threat. And the truth is that we don't know. We don't.
The big question is always, how could it be that these West liberal, woke progressives align themselves with Islam? Their values are totally not connected. In fact, they're antithetical to each other. And he saw things for what it was, that both of them want to destroy civilization because civilization was birthed out of Scripture. And they hate things that are of the Bible. They hate things that are from God. But when you remove God, then you lose all wisdom and you start calling boys girls and girls boys, and you start creating absolute chaos. The same chaos that the Hamas creates physically in Gaza, the woke create chaos in people's minds. And so that's why Solomon says, King Solomon, Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. That just the beginning of wisdom, just to have simple common sense, starts with belief in God, starts with fearing the Lord. Once you remove that, everything turns into chaos. And that's why it's amazing that Charlie's like, what I want to be remembered for is my courageous faith. And he speaks of American civilization being birthed out of faith, out of the Bible. And that's why he was attacked.
And I think that part of what you're saying here is that, and going back to even what Luke was saying about what do we do now? How do we get the message out? Because terrorism, as we've said many times, is working. It's putting fear in the people that shouldn't have fear. He said, he wants to be courageous. So how do we be courageous? What does that mean today? Does it mean that we actually do the events, or do we just start backing down? Because what I'm hearing is, okay, the Israel summit is not something that we can even think about now. Israel, then terrorism wins, right? How does it not win? How do we combat? How do we keep this legacy going? And because it has to keep going, right? You can't shut it down. Not now. Right now is the time we have to get engaged. Right now is the time we get up and we start fighting. How many Jews have been, we lost 10 Jews this week in a terrorist event. I know that we're so far away from that news story, which is a few days ago, but literally 6 people murdered by jihadists and 4 of our soldiers ambushed.
Well, once we realized that Charlie Kirk was assassinated because of his faith, because of what he represented, then we look at the terror attack in Israel and realize, oh, they're not disjointed. Those are actually fundamentally corrected, that when evil arises in the world, it'll start in Israel, but it's just a matter of time until it reaches America and it reaches the rest of the world. But I've really been thinking about that all morning. What can America do? Well, how should America respond? And the truth is, I don't know if America has a way to respond at this point. Like there's a place like England right now, forget about it. They are lost. America, there still might be a glimmer of hope as a country, but I feel like maybe the only response that America can have is for each and every American individual to take something on, to actually act with faith in their own private lives, that it has to be something that emerges from the people, because I don't think America as a country has the ability to stop what's happening right now.
Well, but America is a country of individuals. And I think that those people that loved Charlie, that are broken by this, that want to take some of that life force and imbue it within themselves. What was one of the most distinctive factors about him? I think that he really had faith in humanity. He believed in people, right? You said he was giving a talk in Utah. He wasn't giving a talk. He was dialoguing. Yeah. He was a living embodiment of dialogue. Right, which means I hear from you and you hear from me. It's easy to be a talking
only
head.
The protesters. He only wanted the people that were disagreeing with him to speak.
Right, and he always treated them with respect. He saw them as human beings that came from fundamentally a good place, and it takes a lot of faith to believe in that, because we don't know who killed him. We don't know, but I do want to say this: we don't know who killed him because I saw someone say that it's in Russia's interest to do this. Maybe because it was clearly a professional job that the guy was able to get away, and the whole thing, the decoys and whatever. So maybe I can imagine Putin's interest to possibly fracture and divide America, have us kill each other and think, but it doesn't help the glee and the joy and the reveling that I've seen from the left in response to this.
The same people that were condemning the elimination of the Hamas leadership are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. It's disgusting.
It's revolting, it's disgusting, and it's distressing. right? Because if we're going and we're saying to the American population that loves Charlie Kirk and his message, believe in people, and you're saying who to believe in, those people that are celebrating orphans and a widow and brokenness and devastation, and a guy that, to me, he wasn't even controversial. He wasn't controversial. What was so threatening about him is that he wasn't. Right. Is that he really came with a message of love and belief in humanity, and that was the real threat. That was the real threat. That's
why should it be controversial to promote life and family and Judeo-Christian values and conversation? Yeah. And like literally he said, like not being willing to talk without, without leading to violence or hating each other is like the downfall. I want to talk a little bit about his Zionism, because he was an outspoken Zionist. There's a photo of him holding the Israeli flag in front of the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron, which is next level. Like if you come to Israel, especially if someone of his stature and his, how large of a following he has, and you go straight into Judea and Samaria, and you go to Hebron, you go to the cave of the patriarchs, which is like one of the most hotly contested pieces of real estate in the world, you're a Zionist. There's like no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? But people still wonder, like, why is Tucker Carlson being invited to speak at, his conference in this year, things like that. So people wondered, right? But I want to read a quote of his about the Jewish people and Israel. He said, "I am a defender of Israel as a homeland for the Jewish people. When I went to Israel, I saw the Bible come to life. We as Christians must honor the Jews. If Israel laid down their weapons, all the Jews would be killed. Israel has a place in God's plan." So there's no question in my mind that he was an ardent Zionist. He was an unconditional supporter of Israel, of the Jewish people, that he honored the Jewish people, he honored the Jewish scriptures, honors the Shabbat, and he unconditionally condemns Jew hatred. I believe he even called it that, like, which is a level of understanding to move past. It's just everybody throws out the word anti-Semitism. He literally said, no, Jew hatred and going down the rabbit hole online, the conspiracies and the theories and all this crazy lies. He said it'll literally rot your brain. He called it brain rot. It's a mind virus. It'll ruin you. It's a disease that will destroy you from within. Like he couldn't say it. And he has warned the next generation of young people, do not let this disease of Jew hatred rot you. And he said, he didn't just say it because it was coming from a place of personal well-being. It's not about, we need to stand with Israel, we need to support the Jewish people. He said, no, this will destroy you. It will destroy your mind, your brain. It'll eat you from within.
Can I just play a clip that's a perfect demonstration of that in one of his dialogues on campus? Watch this.
You mean how they're killing little kids, man?
Well, hold on. Killing kids. You mean they drop leaflets before they bomb in Gaza? They warn civilian corridors before they ever engage militarily. They do emergency medical procedures for any person in Gaza that might need it. Do you understand what's actually?
They're doing good, but it's okay for them to do bad. Then
it's called war, okay? And in war, sometimes bad things happen. Who started this? It's not a war crime. Throwing around war crime is a ridiculous. You know what a war crime is? A war crime is going into
killing children is a war crime.
Going into kibbutzes, going into the Nova Music Festival, going into people's places of residences on October 7th, and putting.
So okay, you guys keep bringing up October 7th. You guys are doing bad.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
Okay.
If you're going to all of a sudden attack Jews on their holiest day of the interior of Israel, expect a whirlwind and don't complain about it when it comes forward.
So what's happening is that basically what Israel doing is bad. Hamas is doing is bad. Okay.
I'm not even contending what Israel's doing is bad.
What Israel doing isn't bad. Killing children isn't bad. Is what you're saying?
Hold on a second, but you have to go instance by.
Is it or not?
Are they intentionally killing kids? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No, they are not.
So
that is complete
why are there so
BS.
many dead kids? Why are you okay with dead babies?
Good question. Why are there dead kids? Do you think Israel sits around and they say, how do we kill more kids in Gaza today?
I mean, so why are they killing kids then?
Exactly. Let's think. Maybe it's because Hamas uses the kids as human shields on top of their military bases. Maybe that's why. Maybe because the people of Hamas have no concern for the life of their own people.
I think another question is, how do we replicate a Charlie Kirk? How do we bring Charlie Kirk? Who's going to take his place? And I think that maybe the answer is not maybe who is like how many, because we have people that are not speaking, that say they stand with Israel, churches, congregations in our world that need to be taking the boldness of Charlie Kirk. He needs to be replicated. First is because Charlie, we know him. You spoke about it, Jeremy, that he's very courageous in his faith, and I'm wondering, do we have that kind of faith? Do we have that kind of courageous faith in the church? Because a lot of our congregation, I can hear the pastor saying, some of my congregation are listening to Candace Owens, they're listening to Tucker Carlson, and how can I take a position on these things? No, take a position. It's biblical. This is the biblical narrative. Charlie's preaching and teaching and bringing to dialogue a biblical narrative. Just preach the word. That's the thing that I think that has to be established, and the church has failed on that, even here we are 78 now, we're approaching the 78 years since 1948. We lost our replacement theology, our supersessionism. When that whole theology went out the window, I don't care how, you just can't talk that way anymore. You have no grounds to talk that way anymore. So what do we do now? So Charlie gave us an example, gave every pastor an example.
Well, I think really the faith of America is going to be tested now, because when you have faith, then you will rise up like Israel. That's the truth. With all the hardships and all the terrorism and this never-ending war, this war has turned Israel from a little turtle into a dragon that's able to attack the Hamas leadership thousands of kilometers away. It's brought out a lion. And when you have faith, the hardships, the challenges, it gives you the perspective and the tools to emerge sometimes even stronger. And so right now, conservatism, biblical America, the believers of America, they've been hit hard. But I think with proper faith, they really can emerge even stronger, and each one will have to rise up, just like what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder for us because, when you do what we do, media, videos, podcasting, news, all that kind of stuff, it's very easy to get sucked into politics. It's very easy to get sucked into the back and forth and the fake news and the propaganda and just trying to get the truth out. And sometimes we need that reminder to step back and say, actually, that's not what it's about. It's actually about the Bible, and it's about a war for good and evil. And it's about getting back to morality. It's not just conservative values, it's morality, and it's Judeo-Christian values. It's the scriptures. Charlie Kirk said
and it's about truth. It's a fundamental Jewish belief that truth is God's seal. If you simply tell the truth in life, it is the most liberating thing. Jordan Peterson talks about this. Why? Because when you're lying and manipulating, you're saying, I know which way my life should go, this way or that way. But when you just tell the truth, God's hands are on the steering wheel. And that's why I feel like he was a real lover of the Jewish, a real friend of the Jewish people. Why? Because someone that just allies with the Jewish people or feels like they will say things, they don't want to alienate their friends. But a real friend tells you what you need to hear. And he was accused of being an anti-Semite, Charlie Kirk. In October 2023, after October 7th, Kirk drew controversy after he derided Jewish philanthropy to American universities for, quote, subsidizing your own demise by supporting institutions that breed anti-Semites and endorse genocidal killers. And all these Jews, the irony is that these far leftist Jews that are giving all of this money to universities that are also being funded in the tune of billions by Qatar and by China, that are infusing these kids with far left values in order to undermine the entire nation, understanding that that's where the ideas of the next generation are born, against Israel and against the Jewish people, these far left Jews that don't even identify truly as Jews, then pull out their Jewish identity as a cudgel to call him an anti-Semite, when really he's just speaking the truth.
Yeah.
These Jews are giving huge amounts of money to universities that are creating not only anti-Israelism, but anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, directly. He was simply telling the truth.
Yeah, I think it's really important to differentiate between actual anti-Semitism and Jew hatred and criticism of Israel or the Jewish people. And that is a fine line, and a lot of people do really get it wrong and wrongly accuse people of that. And all of us here would agree. You're an Israeli Orthodox Jew, and you don't have a problem criticizing the Israeli government. I don't have a problem with that. It's politics. It's a free world. It's democracy. Or talk about AIPAC's influence in the U.S. government. I don't care. I don't like AIPAC. If they lost all their influence in the U.S. government, fine. There's no problem with that.
That would be a good thing, I think.
Probably, yes. Very, very probably. Or talking about U.S. aid to Israel. Talk about it. Debate it all you want. There's an argument that it would be better for Israel to have to stand more firmly on their own 2 feet. Jew hatred and anti-Semitism is wrongly accusing the Jewish people of lies and engaging in propaganda and removing the right for them to live in their homeland as a sovereign nation, a sovereign people. It's very important to make that distinction, and I think that's exactly. It's very clear that Charlie Kirk was a biblical, faith-based Christian Zionist who believed in.
I think that, to your point there, that from our perspective, looking at Jews that support terrorism is kind of like the same way we would look at queers for Palestine. Why did Jews? Okay, here's my question: Why did Jews want to support the people that want to kill them?
You're asking me.
I'm asking you.
You're asking me.
I'm asking you a question.
Okay, well, to unpack
because that is confusing to us.
So there's a few reasons to unpack that without going too into depth, because that could be an entire program. There are thousands of years of baggage that Jews are carrying around with them, and so let's say those Jews that don't necessarily believe in God or the Torah or whatever, then you look at Jewish history and you say, wow, every single nation that we've been to has hated us. But some were rich. They hate us for being rich. They hate us for being poor. They hate us for being capitalist. They hate us for being communist. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is,
for being able to defend yourself.
When we're not able to defend ourselves, when we are able, it's a shape-shifting thing, and that it's a type of hatred that doesn't apply to any other people. So you can either walk away and say, there's something unique about us. Maybe we have a special mission by God who is leading the hearts of the nations to help us understand our mission, or there's no God, and so it must really be our fault. Our skirt was too short. We were asking for it, right? And there's also this belief, this quixotic, silly belief that if they side with our enemies, then they will be spared the eventual fate that the rest of the Jewish people would have to face. You know, we saw this in Germany. There was like an entire organization, big movement of Jews supporting Hitler. And they understood, yes, maybe this isn't in our best interest as Jews, but we support Hitler. Germany is our Israel and Berlin is our Jerusalem. They're the fatherland, and we support Hitler in the belief that they would be able to dodge that fate. And they ended up in the gas chambers of Auschwitz, right next to those, religious Orthodox side curl Jews. In the eyes of the world, Jews are Jews, and there's no dodging that fate. But I hope that answered your question to some belief, at least too.
Well, I think a lot of times abused children blame themselves for their parents' abuse. And so the Jewish people outside of the land are still suffering from that exile mentality, blaming themselves for being persecuted. But inside Israel, something is shifting. There is a change that's happening where the Jewish people are becoming who we were always meant to be. And that is, at least in my mind, a process that we're going through in this 2-year war.
Yeah, and just one thing, I think there's a prophecy that he fulfilled, possibly more than most others. I think maybe you guys are among the others that do. From Psalm 126, right? Shira Malat B'shuv Hashem et Zion, Haynu kachomim. When we return to Zion, we'll be like dreamers. Right? It says, Az yomru v'goyim, higdil Hashem la'asot imela. And then the righteous of the nations will say, look at the great things God has done with you. And then the nation of Israel will say, look at the great things God has done with us. To hear the Charlie Kirks of the world, which are few and far between, a righteous remnant of the world, stand to the Jewish people and say, God is with you. God is protecting you. You are a blessed people. To hear that from him, who we've heard is Christendom and a Christian, it does something to the hearts of Israel and fortifies us and comforts us and strengthens us in a very special way.
I told that to our volunteers this morning. I said, you guys, you all love Charlie Kirk, and you may say, how can I do that? I said, you're doing it. You're doing it just by coming here and standing, going out and harvesting a vineyard, to make a declaration to the world that, you know what, it's not just a Jewish thing. It's all of us now, all of us on board. And I said, you guys are the heroes. You're changing the story. Really, it wasn't that long ago that we had a terrible story amongst each other. I mean, to deal with each other. And here we are, you guys are doing a podcast. By the way, I'm really honored to be here with you guys and obviously, replacing Joshua. I'm not sure that I can do that, but he is my son and I had to make that statement.
You should be very proud.
Yeah, I am. So, these are small things, but replicating. Everybody's saying, how do we get another Charlie Kirk? How is that? No, we all need to carry his legacy. I mean, that's going to bring him to a higher elevation. I believe that's Judaism, right?
Sure.
That's the part of it.
Well, when I try to soul search and think, okay, what light did he bring into the world that light needs to continue to shine? And to me, what sort of differentiated him from everyone was the fact that he had a dialogue. I mean, the Talmud, the Jewish oral tradition of 3,000 years, is exactly that. It's arguing. And even when one side loses the argument, we don't erase that side. We let the argument stand because we believe in truth. And ultimately, if God is one, God is reality and beyond, he created all of this, then this, whatever, is the truth. It is the truth. So let the truth speak for itself, to really believe in the truth. Because right now, we're not only being assaulted by lies, we're literally being assaulted by anti-truth. It's like the people that called to exterminate the Jews and wipe Israel off the map. Now they're the moderate, peace-loving negotiators in Qatar. It's like, really? That's the opposite of the truth. No, the Jews are targeting civilians and committing a genocide. They literally came in, did genocide. Not only they targeted a simple peace-loving music festival. Everything that they're saying is the opposite of the truth. It's the anti-truth. And so what is the antidote to that? Just speak the truth. Represent the truth, because the truth ultimately will prevail. And so that would be my encouragement to all of our listeners, is that adopt that part of Charlie and really represent the truth in the world, because the truth will ultimately come out.
Amen.